Okay. Um, I'm gonna start the bit. I mean, the bit was uh originally I would do it, but because I just tested it, it actually sounded pretty great. And I mean, because we only have 11 followers, I don't think that we're gonna get copyrighted. But you can hear it, right? So I'm gonna play it, and then you have to guess it. You ready?
All right, let's do it. What what TV show is this from? Each other hands. This is Reba, right? Reba? That sounds like Reba.
What TV show was that?
It's not Reba?
No.
What is it?
That is it's like early 90s, late 80s. I'm going to give you one more I'm going to give you one more chance. As long as we got each other.
Oh, is it the one with the
I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you
Well,
one more.
it's what's his name? He has he's the like the nanny, he's like the older.
No.
He's got like the
I'm going to give you one hint.
Naki just fucked everything up.
Am I still in the
Saki.
I'm gonna give you one hint. The first hint is Alan Thicke.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Second hint, Kirk Cameron.
Yeah. Oh my god. What was the name of that TV show? I can't think of the name.
I'm gonna give you a third hint. Everybody comes in to the clinic because they are experiencing
What?
people come
Oh,
into the
growing pains?
Yeah, there
Growing
you
pains,
go.
yeah.
God.
Growing pains, yeah. Golly, that was hard for me.
That should not have been hard. That is like
I mean, I watch that show all the time.
yeah, I mean that was like I wasn't that where Leonardo DiCaprio started? Like he started on that's
Did
where
he?
his acting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was like a troubled kid, and he came into I forget. Do you remember what the family's last name was? Oh man, this is gonna bother me. Oh, growing pains. I mean, people should know that. People out there are like probably screaming it. The Seavers. Is it the Seavers? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Seavers. You have the craziest autistic brain for fucking 80s
Not
and
that show.
90s.
That
But
wasn't
you used to watch it.
I did, but like that wasn't like my favorite show.
Oh, come on, dude. Growing pains cast. Okay. And I'm almost positive. Yeah, it's the Seavers. It was Dr. Jason Seaver, Maggie Seaver, Mike Seaver. And yeah, I was right. Leonardo DiCaprio was on it. I was fucking right.
I was more. I mean, I'm just trying to think like the shows that I watched more during that period of time. I was really into like cartoons. I watched a lot of like Ren and Stimpy and
Nerd. I mean, we just as Canadians,
yeah.
we did not have cartoons. We just didn't. We just
Yeah,
there was.
I was like a Cartoon Network. I mean, like X-Men.
I mean, X Men was much later. Like X Men was
No, it was
in our
90s.
X Men was much later. I promise you. That was like eighth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th grade.
Yeah.
the Growing Pains was like early.
Yeah.
Like
Early,
that's
early.
like 6, 7, 8, 9, much earlier. Anyways, I can't believe you didn't get
Yeah, it
that
took me a while.
immediately. Well, that's going to be our new bit for a little bit because I have a ton of early
So you're just
90s
gonna come in with different.
theme songs,
I
and
like that.
you're going to have to figure it out. Now,
Okay.
the original bit was I was just going to sing it, but I didn't remember all of the lyrics. I can like basically get by, but I'd have to like, I basically would just add in random words for the
And
words
so
that
you're
I
saying we're
don't
both
know.
autistic about different things. Is what I'm hearing here.
Okay, well, I'm Dr. Wu, and I'm the owner operator of the Sports Pod, and I specialize in sports medicine, sports rehab, and classic '90s and early late '80s TV and pop culture.
Nice. And I'm Coach Eric Rosenstock. I'm a strength conditioning specialist at the Sports Pod, and my emphasis is on Olympic weightlifting, strength training, and nutrition. And I like anime.
Yeah, nerd. And this is SP
Wow.
Cast. I don't know why my guitar was crashing.
I know.
Ow.
What did you just hit?
My wrist. And this episode's about how I fucked up my wrist.
Eric, what do I do for a broken wrist? All right.
No, this episode is gonna come out close to Memorial Day, and we have a few patients, few athletes coming in, still doing. I'm always surprised that people are still doing the CrossFit out there.
The CrossFit.
The CrossFit, and there is a very particular CrossFit workout. For those of you that don't CrossFit, there are very specific CrossFit workouts that are named different things.
Yeah, you have
Some are
girls and you
named
have
Cindy.
Mhm.
Some are named. What are some other names of them?
Mary,
Mary,
Chelsea, Isabel,
Saki.
Grace, Fran,
Yeah.
Nicole. There's a lot of them. It's a
There's
Drake
a joke
song.
in there somewhere, but they're very specific and they're named after mostly military fallen soldiers.
Well, the hero wads are.
Yeah,
The
hero
girl
wads.
wads were just random names they came up with. Some of them happen to have the same name as like some early CrossFit girl coaches, but the male named, I think they're all mostly male named. Are the hero wads.
Yeah, the hero wads. So there is a very specific workout called Murph that people do on Memorial Day, and give me a little bit of history of where Murph comes from.
So Michael Murphy was on. They were on a mission in Afghanistan, I believe, and they got pinned down real bad, and they needed to get an evac. And because they were pinned down, they couldn't get to a place where they could radio in like helicopter air support. And so Michael Murphy sacrificed himself basically by running up like a hillish type thing and just took it. Like basically like right out in the just knew he was gonna get shot at, went up there, was actually able to get in a helicopter, which then unfortunately got shot down. So that sucks. But yeah, he was a badass and tried to save everyone. And the movie / book Lone Survivor is based on that same mission because Marcus Luttrell was the only survivor from that group.
That's crazy. Insane. And so basically every Memorial Day, CrossFitters do Murph, and Murph is, and I'll let you describe the.
Yeah,
a WOD is a workout of the day. It's just an acronym. So what is the WOD?
Yeah, so the workout Murph, it's meant to be done with your body armor. So if you're a, you know, military, you're supposed to do it in your military gear, your body armor. So if you have like just a weighted vest, it's 20 pounds, and it's a mile run followed by 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, and 300 air squats, and then you do the mile run again.
Yeah.
It's a long workout. Takes most people over an hour.
Yeah, it is. It is hard. And if you aren't training for this, then you are gonna get fucking bamboozled.
Yeah, it's a lot of volume. It's a whole lot of volume. The people that actually get most jacked up on Murph,
Well, before we go into that, this
yeah,
episode is about Murph, and you're gonna hear some tips from me on how to prevent some injuries
hmm
that are very common in Murph. And Eric is going to talk a little bit about how you train for Murph. And honestly, if you are, we maybe should probably drop this a little bit earlier than like
to
right
give people some
near.
time to
We'd
utilize
probably
it. I mean,
even
we can drop
next
it
week.
Monday.
Yeah, we probably drop it next week, which is you have to train for Murph. And
Yeah,
if you don't, I mean, one of the tips that I'm going to give you to not get injured during Murph is train for Murph so
yeah,
that you don't get fucked up. Because you can't do that type of volume. For the most part, most people get injured. One of the main reasons people get injured is your body has a certain capacity for workload. So I usually use the analogy of a bowl, and your bowl is basically your muscle, and the water is basically the work that you're being done. And if your bowl is very shallow and you're pouring water into that bowl, it's just gonna come out of that bowl and just overflow. And when it overflows, that's when you start to get injuries. It
yeah,
first starts with muscle strains and then ligament tears and then joint issues. So the first thing that you always have to do when you're thinking about return to play or to prevent an injury is to create a deeper bowl, because if you have a deeper bowl, then you have more capacity. Your body can be more resilient to the workload that you're going to give it. But if you've done like only 10 push-ups in your fucking entire life, you should not do 100 push-ups the first fucking go around. Like, you're going to get really fucked up. You're gonna get really fucked up. And the other capacity thing here, which is
yeah.
like CrossFit gets a terrible rap about this, which is rhabdomyolysis, which is your body, all your entire skeletal system
It's fun.
basically is inflamed, like every
You're
single
breaking down
body.
muscle tissue into the
Yeah,
bloodstream.
and you're breaking down muscle tissue into the bloodstream, which we just talked about in a previous episode.
Yeah, organs can shut down. It's
Yeah.
real bad.
And in a previous episode, your bloodstream wants to be a certain pH level and it wants to be in a certain homeostasis of certain nutrients. And if you start pouring fucking muscle tissue into your bloodstream, you're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a
Yeah,
bad
to
time.
eat pizza and when you're
So
supposed to French
my
fry.
my first tip on making sure that you don't get injured in Murph is fucking train for Murph. And
Right.
this is where Eric is going to talk to you about how you train for Murph.
Yeah. So, like with any event that you're training for, you have to just kind of understand like what the total volume looks like, where you're currently at from a volume standpoint, like what you can do within a certain time domain. So generally with Murph, I like to scale it to being done under an hour. I think it's the law of diminishing return. If it's taking you more than an hour, then we probably need to cut some of the volume down. So for a lot of first time people, I recommend just doing a half Murph. And that's just a great introduction to the workout. And like just to remind everyone, the point of doing Murph on Memorial Day is to remember the people that paid the ultimate sacrifice. So you're sitting there trying to suffer 1% of what other people have suffered.
Yeah.
And so it's putting things in perspective. It's meant to be a time where you're pushing yourself through some suck, and you're getting to experience pain and discomfort, and you're using that as a moment to reflect and just realize that you don't have it that bad, right? This is not, in the grand scheme of things, this is not a big deal.
Yeah, and just remind yourself, a half Murph is still a lot of fucking
Yeah,
workload.
it's still a lot.
And this goes back to the if you're new to CrossFit, this might be your first year to CrossFit, you absolutely should do half. There should be no reason why you do a full Murph. And if I mean, look, listen to your body, listen to your brain. You know, those of you out there know that you can't do full Murph. Don't push
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I think the first thing that you want to kind of look at when you're starting to prep for Murph is you obviously need to understand like where you currently are at with your gymnastics. So can you perform a pull up, push up, and air squat unassisted through a full range of motion without pain? Like that's like step one, right?
I mean, I think that most people get a little bit overconfident because the movements aren't necessarily hard, right? Like the
Right.
movements are basic. They're basic. They're just
Yeah.
there's air
We're
squats,
not doing muscle ups and snatches
muscle
here.
up, and we're doing not muscle up. We're doing
Push-up.
a chin to bar, chest to bar, and you're doing a push up. So those are like to me, it's like a fundamental.
Right.
Like these are fundamental movements. The issue here is not the actual movement; it's the
The volume of movement.
volume in which you're doing it, and also your energy systems. Like you're going from like endurance system to a fucking fast twitch system back to a
Yeah.
endurance system.
Which is one of, it goes into like my recommendation for, training and approaching Murph. The goal is to stay aerobic the entire time, which means you need to be moving through the different exercises in like small manageable sets so that nothing is really pushing you too far into that anaerobic state, because that's where you start to pump out. That's when you start to really like drop a lot of time and your heart rate's going to spike. So, my general recommendation is you want to try to find a pace on the run that is, 60-70% effort that's sustainable. You're not trying to run your like 5K pace here.
What's a good, what would you say would be an exceptional mile, and then an average mile, and then you're really slowing it down mile?
Yeah.
Like a 6
So
minute mile.
6 minute mile is just absurd. I only have known a couple people to come out and pull that off and actually keep moving, and not just completely fall off a cliff. So I would say like a 7 minute mile is actually pretty fucking elite, just because with or without a vest, you're just coming into a lot more.
How heavy is the vest? Is it a 20 pound?
20-pound vest.
Yeah, so if you're doing a 20-pound vest at a 7 minute mile, you're still going at a fucking insane clip. Insane.
Right.
And remember, you still have a mile on the back end.
On the back end, it just doesn't make sense to come out that fast.
You can go out that fast because it's the beginning of Murph and you have the most energy at that point.
Yeah, there's a phrase, you can't win a race in the first mile, but you can lose it.
Yeah.
And so you just want to make sure, huh?
You can't win a race in the first mile, but you can lose it in the last.
No, but you can lose it in the first mile by like overextending yourself.
Yeah,
and then,
but could you not like also lose it in the last mile?
Yeah, I mean, you can you're learning the phrase. Okay.
Anyway,
the point is, if you come out too fast, there's no coming back from it. So I really recommend taking whatever your average mile time is that you would run in a 5K, and like slowing it down by
2 minutes.
Like you just use like a percentage, like by 20%.
Okay.
So for most,
so if you do a 10-minute mile, you should be doing a
10-minute mile is like just pretty good. Like just run it like a 9 to 10-minute mile, jog it out. Like you'll still be tired when you come in, but you'll be able to push and move through the volume of the workout.
Right.
Because if you break up, some people will recommend partitioning Murph, and I recommend partitioning Murph for most people. just because it gives you a change of stimulus, and so you're not just working the
Explain
same.
what partitioning
Yeah,
Murph
partitioning would
means.
be, instead of doing 100, 200, 300 in order, you would do like 10, 20, 30 for 10 rounds, or 5, 10, 15 for 20 rounds.
Okay.
And then some people get real fancy and they'll do, 10, 20, 30 for like 5 rounds, and then they'll switch to, so
Yeah, there's different ways to cut it
whatever
up.
works for you to just keep moving. Like the whole point is just to keep
I
moving.
mean, the meat of the burger, like the push-ups, bicep, chest to bars, and then also those air squats. You can do them at any or not order. Can you do them in any order? You can
Yeah,
do them in any order as long as you just finish
finish everything.
everything, and then you start
Then you either run
you can
again.
run. You can't intersperse running in between
No,
these things. You have to do those three things first and then do
correct.
right. So one of the things that often gets fucked up in Murph is your fucking shoulders, because your shoulders
Yeah,
are being used in the push up and
and
also
the
in the chest to
pull up.
bar. And one, so the first thing I would tell you again on technique wise, there's several things that happen. Sometimes when you, the way that your elbows are positioned in in these push-ups, if you go into like a wide position, like you're doing a bench press like this, one, you're wasting energy,
Hmm.
but also two, you are creating an insane amount of force into your shoulders. Like you're the it's called the lever arm. So the longer the lever, the more pressure you're going to have over that joint. And then on top of that, like you're also doing, again, depending on who you are and how advanced you are at CrossFit, you're either going to try to do strict chin ups or strict chest to bars, or what most likely will happen
Do a
is
kip.
you're going to do a kip, which is like a it's something in gymnastics where basically gym is just used to get to the bar, but they only do it once. The kip is a way to use body momentum to get your chest to the bar, and then at a more advanced level you're doing a butterfly motion, which is like a more smoother
Yeah.
kipping motion that gets to your chest to the bar. Okay, here are the dangers from most advanced to less advanced. The 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 butterfly puts a fucking ton of pressure into that joint because you're now creating a concentric force, and then you're letting go and you're getting into a position where you're like dislocating your shoulder. Like if your rotator cuff isn't very strong, or you haven't been training your rotator cuff to be fucking bulletproof, that fucking butterfly will really fuck up your shoulder. It's like literally every time you come down to the bottom of the
Yeah.
butterfly,
You're pulling on your carries and
yeah, you're pulling on your teres, you're pulling on your lat, and you're literally trying to pull your humerus out of socket every single
yeah.
time. So, for those of you that have a history of a dislocated shoulder, I highly suggest that you do not fucking do a butterfly. The second is kipping, which is even worse because the kipping, you're coming all the way up, and the way that you're coming back down is more of a straight down and then coming back up and straight down. Same thing. Your rotator cuff is going to get fucking angry. And then in a strict chin, which I've never seen anybody do Murph, just like a straight chest to bar like this. That's still gonna be your best bet of like the most injuries that happen from there is an impingement syndrome. Like
Yeah, just
your
the rep.
biceps tendonitis, you will get a biceps tendonitis. You will you will drag that biceps over the acromion, which is the bone or the hood of the acromion, over your shoulder, and you'll start to have a really bad tendonitis in the front of the shoulder. And then in the push-ups, you will most likely strain your pec, and also your pec attaches to your greater tubercle, which is close to your biceps tendon. It can mimic a impingement syndrome, or it can mimic a tendonitis of the
Yeah.
actual bicep, but really it's a strain in the
It's yeah,
ligament and the
and mainly
muscle.
usually like due to a lack of internal rotation in the humerus with push-ups. Like
Yeah, I
I
mean, again,
find
with push-ups, it's almost too much internal rotation, right? Because your pec is so strong, it's internally rotating it, which then creates not a lot of space between your acromion hood to your humerus, which
yeah,
pushes everything up into the bone, which then creates an itis in the shoulder. So
yeah.
those are like the like main issues for that. And the way that I would try to prevent that is doing a ton of external rotation exercises and
Hmm.
also getting mobility back into shoulder flexion, shoulder external rotation, and shoulder internal rotation.
Right. And then you can also help with a couple technique, when you're positioning in a push up, you'll see people when they're tired, they don't realize that their fingers are pointing in, and so they're going into this position. So I generally recommend, thumbs pointing in front of you, fingers out a little bit for Murph, and just being a little bit more in this position, just trying to use more pec and less shoulder. That's my recommendation for like the push up modification for movement. And then like Woo
And
was
and elbows in.
and elbows, yeah, more elbows in.
And then when you are resting, don't rest at the top of the push up. Rest at the bottom of the push up.
Correct. Yeah, rest at the bottom. Don't spend any more time in that push up plank than you need to. And then on pull ups, uh, if you don't have a good kip, that's when you start to see people like they're not able to transfer the energy from one rep to the next, and so that's when they have to generate more force from the start. So at the top of your kip, you really should be thinking about pushing back away so you're not falling straight down. So hitting the top of the bar and then leaning back so that you're in a position where your big muscles of your lats can grab and support you when you fall, so you're not falling straight down into more like bicep and the shoulder.
So those are the tips for the for the push up and the shoulder. Now the next tips are for squats. Now, the most common thing that I find with people who do this many air squats with the 20-pound vest is one, they round their low back when they get into, because the standard is you got to go past 90 degrees. You got to go past a certain point. You can't just like do these quarter reps. And the issue is that most people have never actually fixed their squat. So what they'll do is they'll round their low back, and then afterwards they'll come into the clinic and be like, "My fucking low back is killing me." And it's because you did essentially,
300 back extensions.
300 back extensions and 300 fucking good mornings. So the first thing that I would tell you to do is making sure that you are, one, technique wise, learn how to be in a neutral position when you are squatting past 90 degrees. Maybe even just video yourself just to see from the side whether or not you do round your back. Most people are so kinesthetically unaware
Right,
of
they
what
don't
their
notice
body
what
is
they're doing.
doing. Yeah, that they don't even know that they are rounding their backs. So that's the first thing, is get to a position where you're in a neutral spine position, and then figuring out, well, what is creating the rounded back. For me, most of the time, most people round their back because they have terrible ankle dorsiflexion,
Mhm.
meaning that you can't get your knees past your toes enough where you can be more upright so that your center of gravity is more in the middle versus behind you. The reason why you are rounding your back is because your ass is so far back and your knees are so far back that you have to counterbalance your upper body forward to so that you don't
Fall
fall
backwards.
backwards.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, is low back, and one of the things that I would tell you is increase your dorsiflexion or improve your dorsiflexion. If you already have a sore back, you got to be smashing into your low back erectors and also your psoas. That will immediately make things a lot better. Um, and then the other thing that I notice is like you'll get essentially jumper's knee because you haven't done this type of volume. Now, if you're getting jumper's knee into, which is like really bad pain around your patella or just below your patella, this is an indication that one, you probably don't have a lot of hamstring activation, but two, you don't do enough eccentrics. Like you have to do eccentrics for tendons. And if you don't do eccentrics for tendons, then your fucking tendon is going to blow the
Get
fuck
angry.
up.
Yeah. Um, and from like just a biomechanics standpoint, when I watch people squat on Murph, you're making so many like small compensations as you get fatigued and tired. And so even people with good mobility and people that I know can squat well, they get tired and they start doing like the drag your knuckles on the ground, kind of lean over, hands on their own thighs, to kind of rest the bottom, pushing themselves back up. So you just need to be aware of like when you start to break down in the technique and take some extra rest so you can perform the movement properly.
Yeah, I mean, most of the injuries are coming from that like latter portion of Murph when you are fucking gassed. You
Yeah.
are gassed, and you need to have a game plan going into it, knowing like when you are gassed, you either got to slow it down and be more intentional about using your brain and not getting into those bad positions. Because
Hmm.
honestly, that's where most people will like really injure themselves. It's never at the beginning of Murph. It's always
No.
at near the end of Murph.
Yeah.
When you're like 40 minutes into it, you're just like, fuck this.
Yeah. So you just start to, you know, cut corners, take shortcuts, and compromise on form. And if your body is already in a compromised state because of exhaustion, you're more likely to cause tissue, damage, and have issues there. So, like my main recommendation with air squats is you want to make sure that you practice them enough so that you know a squat width that provides you a level of tightness in the adductor and hamstring so that you have some tissue to kind of create like a seat at the bottom of your squat. So if you're too narrow, generally you have to stop yourself because there's no muscle tissue that's tight enough to, in that stretch position below parallel, to kind of create a stretch reflex and get you out of the bottom of the squat. So I recommend most people go wider than normal because you're not going to have a load on your back. There's less risk with a wider, less stable. It's less stable the wider you go out. So at really heavy weights, when you get deep into that hip flexion, it can kind of start to pull the knees in and cause some other compensations. But in an air squat, we don't have to worry about that. So I'm more willing to let people kind of go wider than they would normally squat with heavy load because you can use that tightness in the tissue to kind of give your brain feedback on, okay, I've hit the right depth.
So those are the tips and ways where you can kind of prevent injury for your squat. Now the last portion is that last mile, and you are going to be fucking
This
gassed.
is put one foot in front of the other
Yeah,
and
like
just get to home base.
you're like not thinking right. You are disoriented a little bit. And this is again the area where you're going to most likely get injuries. And this because you just came off of 300 squats, your Achilles and your foot are going to feel like garbage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and this is where Achilles injuries and foot injuries happen all the time, and some obviously knee injuries. The Achilles injuries happen just because you just don't have good dorsiflexion. Now, going into Murph, like you really, if you are doing a squat all the way down, let's just say you go past 90, let's go to 100 degrees of flexion, but your heels come up, this is a great example of your dorsiflexion needs to improve. And things that you need to do are, which I really like, and it's so easy, is just getting into a kneel position and getting a really heavy kettlebell and lunge forward while your heel is on the ground. So think about pushing your heel on the ground and then put the weight over your knee and try to get your weight past your knee and just sit there. Sit there for 2 minutes at a
Mm-hmm.
time. If you start doing this now, you won't have an issue on the back end, but you
Correct.
have to start doing this now. The other thing is smashing into the bottom of your foot with a ball, and also smashing into your gastrocs, which is the back of your leg, and just trying to create as much, like the least amount of tension. And then your Achilles, honestly, is a endurance muscle, so you have to do some type of I like slant board um, heel raises, like going all the way down to the slant board where it's giving you the most amount of tension, and then coming all the way up into your tippy toes so that you feel a cramp in your gastroc, and that will bulletproof you for both the squat and the
And the
run.
run, yeah.
And then on a technique wise, just again for prevention, look, when you start to get like floppy footed, or you're like trying, you have to feel this. I know this is gonna be very hard when you're in the middle of fucking, or at the end of Murph, and you're like, I've just fucking finished 100, 200, 300. It's the when you get to heel strike and then flop foot, like that's gonna fuck up your knee. So you just gotta make sure that you are landing in your midfoot, like not in your arch, just above your midfoot, or just above the arch towards the toes. That's where you really want to land as you're running. And then I'm a big proponent of fucking run walk at
Yeah, just
that last little bit
yeah.
that you go.
Yeah, just turn in like an interval workout where it's give yourself 20, 30 seconds, jog it out, walk it, another 20, 30 seconds, jog it out, and just repeat until you're done. Shorter strides at the end, just shuffle fast. Um, if you're wearing a vest, trying to like push at the length of the stride on tissue that's been heavily used is just never a good idea. So um, shorter strides will reduce the amount of impact of each foot strike, so that helps. And then just trying to make sure that you're not in an overextended arch position. Just trying to kind of brace your core and think about pulling with the hamstring on each step versus like lifting up with the hip flexor and quad, because your legs are going to be really tired. So trying to use more hamstring to lift the leg and put it in front of the other foot is going to help you with efficiency for the end of that run.
So those are some of our tips and tricks for just like in the like while you're doing Murph. Now the thing for me after Murph is like everybody wants to obviously pass out, which I agree. Like fucking do your
Yeah,
2, 3, 5 minute of just like
lay
laying
there
on the
and
ground and dying a
well, it
little
is
bit.
too.
But it is imperative, and I'm going to repeat this, imperative that you immediately start stretching.
Yeah, you want
Like
to stretch. You want to
things that you want to stretch are your forearms, your pecs. You want to get into obviously your shoulders,
mhm.
and then the biggest one is your quads and your
Yeah,
hip
couch
flexors.
stretch, like
Couch
big banded lat
stretch.
stretches,
Yeah,
door frame pec stretch.
yeah. So let's go from head to toe. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to you're going to stretch out your pecs, which is the easiest. You could do that over a door frame. You could do laying down your stomach and kind of doing a scorpion situation where your hands are out in a T, and then you're rotating the bottom part of your body to really put a lot of stress into your pecs. That will also get a little bit of your not hamstrings, your forearms. Then I would get into like an all fours position, palms down, and I'm now trying to stretch out my forearms because the 200 fucking chest to bars is legit, and your forearms are going to fucking like be so tight, and your hands are gonna be so
And
tight.
people don't realize how much you use your forearm in a push up,
Yeah,
especially if you have tight wrists. You know, as you're coming down, you're flexing this as you push up. So you'll see
yeah,
people
and
get
like
real puffed.
any stretch where you can do this
Yeah.
situation, that's you can do it on a wall, you could do it on the floor, it doesn't matter, but you have to do it. Then I would go right into doing a couch stretch, and then I would do an Achilles stretch right afterwards. And then the sets and reps of that is like do 2 sets of 2 minutes of every
Hmm.
single one of those body parts. And then if you are so lucky to have a CrossFit that has a ice bath, fucking
Just hop
immediately
in
go right into
or
that
do
ice
like
bath.
get home and do some contrast showers. And then I'm a big fan of hopping on a bike and just kind of pedaling and trying to flush some of that blood out of the body, just get some blood flow going through. So like a nice 10-minute cool down bike or 10-minute cool down row at like 40% effort is
Yeah,
really beneficial
I
for
agree.
reducing
Just like
injury.
doing a half-assed bike will make your body feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's just so much better.
The worst is doing nothing after Murph, and then you celebrate, you eat some barbecue and drink a bunch of beer,
And then it
and you
starts
pass
to,
out at home, and then you wake up the next day and you can't move.
yeah. And then just I would tell you that, and I hopefully this doesn't happen to anybody out there that's listening, but if you the signs and symptoms of rhabdo are: one, you have been like you've never been this sore in your entire life. Two,
Yeah, it feels like the flu.
you feels like the flu, like you are fucking lethargic, you feel like you have a fever, you feel disoriented. That's because your body is like legit fighting you. You are honestly, you feel like you're not going to be able to move, and like every joint in your body is going to like
And the
hurt, like abnormally hurt, not
abnormally
just
hurt,
like, oh, I just like worked out chest the other day and it's
like
fine.
like your beads of sweat because
Yeah,
it hurts. And then the biggest indicator is the color of your pee. So if your urine is brown and very
that's
dark colored, that is a sign that there's protein in.
yeah, that's protein. That's
Yeah,
like your kidney is there to filter out a lot of things, and if you start to piss blood or brown, I mean, that means that your bloodstream is overloaded. Like it can't,
right.
their kidneys can't filter it out, which is like an emergency.
Yeah,
And then you immediately have to go to
yeah, because you
the
need to get some
hospital.
IVs.
But again, hopefully we never get to this point
Right,
because you listen to this podcast, you are doing all the preventative work beforehand, and you don't get
right.
rhabdo. And like I said, and almost 99% of the cases of people who are getting rhabdo are like people who have never done Murph before, and then all of a sudden they're doing Murph,
Yeah.
and they're doing Murph at
Well, it's
the
that, or like I mean, the cases that I've seen have all been usually like beginners. They don't know how to push themselves hard enough, and so the level of intensity over that period of time is so low that's not doing much. The people in my experience that get rhabdo are people that were really good for a while and maybe took like 5 years off of CrossFit, had kids. They still mentally have that drive, and because they've done it before, they push themselves way too hard coming back
yeah,
too soon, and
they
so
overdose.
they
It's
overdose.
like
Yeah,
the addicts that
yeah, they
are
forget that their
straight for
tolerance.
10 years, and then they relapse, and then they go back to the drugs that they used to do it with the amount of they used to do,
Right,
and then they fucking immediately overdose because their body
their
has gone to a
body. Yeah,
homeostasis that can't metabolize it. It's the same thing with CrossFitters. Is
yeah.
you might have had a couple of kids and blah blah blah, and you're not working out as much, and then all of a sudden you
They're like, I can still do
mentally,
Murph.
yeah, they're like, I'm
Like if
just gonna
I went
fucking
and
do
did
Murph.
Murph, and I'd probably push myself too hard and
Yeah.
hurt myself.
So it's just really important. We don't want anybody, this is a main reason why we have this podcast for this particular
Hmm.
episode is for people who are out there that are thinking about doing Murph. Hopefully we'll make sure that we do this, or at least we'll drop this episode again next year at the beginning of April, because honestly that's, or the beginning of March, April, May,
You need
April.
2 months.
Yeah,
You
you
really
need
need
two
two
months.
months to
So
get
go
prepped.
to, at the beginning of April is when you should actually start training for it, and then
Yeah.
you will know 100% you'll be fine going
I'll
into Murph.
what I'll do is I'll put up a 4 week actually will we have 5 weeks?
Yeah, do a 4 week because your fifth week is a taper.
Yeah, so I'll do a 4 week Murph prep
Yeah.
with how to stage up the volume and how to create some workouts that will get you more adapted for it.
Okay. Well, this was our episode on Murph. Murph. We're just gonna get weirder and
What wasn't
weirder.
RoboCop's name?
Yeah, RoboCop's name was Murph,
Yeah.
which was shot in our wonderful city of Detroit.
Detroit.
Yeah, that's where it is.
Dallas.
It's in Detroit. Oh yeah, that's right. It was. But in the movie they're in Detroit.
In the movie, they're in Detroit, but it was shot in Dallas.
It's shot in Dallas.
It was like the
Anyways,
famous.
this has been Murph. This is
has been
Murph
Murph.
Prep, and this has been SP Cast. And find us on our next episode.
All right.